running operations in Cambodia and Laos.
Right.
So yes, I mean, they got to make a profit. You know, war is not just intent; war is profit. That's why we have the bankers that are part of the Bilderberg Group and the Bohemian Grove and other societies, Club of Rome and whatnot. This false flag operation is going to evoke a new war on terrorism in Yemen. It's going to happen. We're on the brink. There's a major military movement. There are military training camps being set up in Yemen right now by our government that are training the Yemen military to go after the terrorist movement there. It's even been said on the news, and you can find this online, that they're making claims that Al-Qaeda has now built a larger base in Yemen that exists in Afghanistan or Pakistan. Absolute garbage.
Okay. So as far as Yemen and the Gulf of Aden, how do these work together? In other words, what is the countries bordering the Gulf of Aden?
Yes.
So is that why it's being targeted specifically because the Stargate is in the over the water?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yemen is ground zero.
Okay. And let's talk about, if you know this or you have a theory on what's going on with that Stargate. Do you have any idea?
All I can give you now is theory, but I encourage everybody that's going to see this to do your own research. Everything I tell you, do your own research, because if you don't question, don't research, you're not learning and you're not waking up. Based on my experience with a project that I was a part of, that again we will discuss in my full interview, I have two theories. Okay, one theory is that there are extraterrestrial beings that no doubt are opening or just now really coming about doing something with the Stargate for a definite purpose. Now, are these extraterrestrials friendly or are they unfriendly? It could be two possibilities. I do not know yet, but I am working on to finding out through some very reliable contacts. If they are indeed friendly, then they have opened it up because we are coming to a time in our world. 2012 is not the end, but I definitely believe that big things are going to be happening, and we do have friendly extraterrestrials that want to see us really become the world we're supposed to be. They're not going to come in and rescue us, but they definitely do things to help assist us move along. Are these the extraterrestrials that decided to open up the Stargate? And if they are, is the military and the global elite going to do everything they can to prevent this from happening so that they can continue their agenda, the agenda that they have been told they have to accomplish within a certain amount of time, or certain beings are going to step in? That's absolute.
And that's the negative agenda that they are trying to roll out. In other words, that certain negative beings, negatively oriented beings, in other words, service to self, are going to step in if the global elite are unable to handle this themselves. Is
Absolutely.
That what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay, very interesting.
Now, but the other side of it is that is this Stargate do the unfriendly extraterrestrials, are they running the show with this Stargate, and the military is there as really the servants, because that's really what the global elite are. They're not in power, people. They are serving someone else, something else, or whatever you want to classify them as.
Okay. And what you're saying in terms of the Gulf of Aden, are you saying that Stargate could be letting in, perhaps? In other words, it could be incoming, could be outgoing, could be going both ways.
Both.
Okay, but what the build-up militarily there will be not only to have control over the Stargate on the one hand, but on the other hand, to make sure, like if it was a negative purpose, there could be negative ETs coming through.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But with underwater bases, every single underwater base, there is at least some presence of extraterrestrials there. But I will tell you, none of them are friendly.
Yeah,
None of
right.
them are.
if they're working with the military, I think it's a sort of a no-brainer.
And they're really running the show. But see, they're clever. They're able to calculate and do things in such a way to where the powers that be think that they're have control, but they don't. With this specific underwater base off the coast in the Golfo de Aden, I cannot say for a fact who is absolutely running the show. All I can do is give my theory based on my absolute direct experience with bases, with being in very high up in black projects of Project Talent, knowing of and actually assisting in some projects with Project Stargate, and another project which I will be talking about. And I'll just go and say it now, Project Seagate.
Okay. Do you feel that what's going on in the Gulf of Aden, are you saying it's Aden? Do you know how to pronounce it actually?
I believe it's Aden.
Okay.
But I could be saying it wrong. If I am, please excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. But are you saying what's going on there may be part of an operation which you know of as Project Seagate?
No, I believe, I don't want to speculate because I don't like doing that.
Uh-huh.
It's possible, but every information that's been given to me is labeled as a Stargate. However, people have to be very careful because from my knowledge and from things that I'm starting to remember, as far as I know, there is only one location for Project Seagate in the entire world. Could I be wrong? Was there information that even I wasn't privy to? It's possible, but I doubt it.
And that's about an underwater base that's located in Puerto Rico area?
Yes, it's in the area of Puerto Rico.
Okay. And that's the one you have recovered memories about?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever been to the Gulf of Aden?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
If I have, I don't remember, but with all the information, everything that I've shared with you on the many times that we've talked and gotten together, I probably have maybe, if I really sat down and think, I probably have regained maybe 40% of my memories. Why this is happening with me at such a young age, I don't know. Because as you know from your experience with others, usually people are much older. But through some other contexts, I have been told, it's a little hard for me to swallow, but I've been told that there is a very specific reason why I specifically have been regaining these memories. And it's not for a bad purpose, it's for a good purpose. Unfortunately, there are times when I'm still triggered and I'm taken elsewhere to do things, as recently as just a couple months ago, where I have 2 days I cannot account for.
Okay. So we've got a Stargate in Gulf of Aden. We've got false flag operations. We just had one in which, whatever they call the underwear bomber or whatever, in which he was basically let on a plane without a passport. Now, is this part of that operation? Because it seems like it's like the opening act in a certain sense.
It is, because there has been recent information saying that not only him, but the shooter in Fort Hood, now all of a sudden this information is coming out that they both had connections with terrorists, with Al-Qaeda in Yemen.
Okay.
And it's just popped up within the past week, if I remember right. How convenient.
Okay, so we have a major operation happening in Yemen right now. What about, are you, is there any other extenuating circumstance or any involvement? Because you said there's a lot of ships in that area. We've got the water sort of churning under some electromagnetic anomaly going on.
Yes.
What's going on between the powers that be that you know of in terms of the ships? Are you in touch with, for example, any, crew or military personnel in regard to any of that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you want to
talk
about?
They, even the even the Coast Guard, it's not just U.S. Navy. There are U.S. Coast Guard ships, cutters as they're called in the Coast Guard, that are there. The people that I'm talking to, that I worked with on the side of just being regular petty officer McCollum in the Coast Guard. So they are not fully aware, but they have contacted me and said, Aaron, something weird is going on, and I can't quite place it, and they've never seen anything like it. I have a few other friends of mine that are actually in Coast Guard intelligence that have contacted me because they are aware of this kind of campaign that I'm doing, making amends for what I was part of. So there is big movement there, absolute. The contacts that I've spoken to said that even they, when questioned about it, they're told that it is strictly for enforcing to the anti-piracy and to help with escorting movements through the Suez Canal. Because apparently the Suez Canal is so backed up with ship transports. I have never, ever heard of there being a problem with backed up ships going through the Suez Canal. Never heard that.
Okay, so if they're going through the Suez Canal, where would they be headed? I mean, there's got to be more than one destination for those ships, right, in theory?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, for example...
Well, I mean, the Suez Canal is a main shipping canal.
So they could be just going through to bound for other areas, right?
Oh yes,
not just all headed for Yemen.
No, not at all. I mean, because if they did that, it would raise too much suspicion. So what they do is they will indeed keep operations normal.
Uh-huh.
Container ships, oil ships will still be allowed to go through it. It's just, and this, the reason they're able to do it so well is because the location of the Stargate in the Gulf of Aden is kind of in the offbeat path. It's not actually directly in the channel.
Uh-huh. Right. But as far as, you said that you have information, and I don't know if this is public information, that there are ships from other countries. In other words, I think you mentioned Japan and China and Russia.
It is public information.
Okay.
There are European Union ships, NATO ships,
okay,
from Japan, Russia, Germany, the UK, United States, Australia, and the list goes on. And yes, it is public information. They're talking about right now. It will be included. I have a specific information that when I give it to you so that you can, look through your own, it's absolute. This is out there. Get on your computer, Google Gulf of Aden, Google Gulf of Aden Stargate, Google War on Yemen. You Google any of those things and you will get pages and pages of not just articles, but of YouTube videos and other pieces of information. People need to look at this because with that, once you start digging, it's amazing, not surprising to me, but it'll be amazing to people that they will realize that you will see an article and it's directly tied to the label of false flag war. We are going to be moving massive troops into Yemen. Yemen is the next battleground, and it's going to happen this year. As far as my knowledge and my intuition and everything else that I've gathered, it's going to happen this year. If it doesn't happen this year, and if I'm wrong, good. I hope that my intuition's wrong, but unfortunately, my little gut feeling that I get is 99% right, and sometimes I actually get angry at myself when I'm right about things because I don't want to see these things happen. So if year 2010 goes on and we don't go into a police state or we don't have more false flags in the country, if this, what I believe is going to be a terrible war happening in Yemen, if that does not occur, then good. But everything that I've gathered, all my information, my contacts have told me otherwise.
Well, let me ask you this. I know you have some interesting abilities associated with water. Isn't that right? And I remember that dolphins have been used by the military to actually perform feats and to actually do, operations basically
Oh, yes.